Well, good morning, you guys. Crystal here from Homemaking on the Homestead. And today I am doing a little coffee with Crystal and just have a few chatty things to share with you and tell you what I've got going on in my kitchen. So grab your cup of coffee and let's come to the kitchen table. So I always like to share a little bit about Coffee with Crystal before I get started, especially right now because I have just gotten a flood of new subscribers, which I absolutely am thrilled about. So if you're new, welcome. I really appreciate you being here. My Coffee with Crystal it's simply your neighbor. You go over to her house and sit down at the kitchen table and enjoy a cup of coffee with her and chat about all things relevant to that day or whatever topics come up that homemakers like to talk about. And so that's kind of what I do with this segment. So I hope you have your coffee or your tea or whatever it is you enjoy drinking, and let's start. First, I'm going to share with you what I have going on in my kitchen. This is only part of it. Before I sat down here this morning, I've actually been feeling like I've been running all over the place, but before I sat down here, I got some granola going. So that is currently in the oven, and my timer's going to beep in a minute, and I'm going to have to stop and get that out. But the granola is a recipe that I have on my site. It is a short video, and so I will link it up here. If you want to go check it out. Also in the description box I can put the recipe. It is such a super easy granola recipe to do, and it only takes a few minutes to whip it together and about 10-20 minutes depending on your oven to get it all nice and golden brown, and it's delicious. Now the original recipe and the one that I do have in on my short video uses butter. A while back I started substituting coconut oil. And I have to say that I really like that. I am much happier using coconut oil than butter. It just gives the granola an extra amount of crispness to it. And so now that's what I use. I use coconut oil a lot in my baking. If I have a recipe I want to try and it calls for shortening or something like that, I will just sub it cup for cup that way. If I have a recipe that is calling for oil. Hold on. As I was saying, if I have a recipe that calls for oil, especially in baked goods, I will just kind of warm up the coconut oil until it's liquid, and I'll just substitute that. Okay, anyway, I digress. So what else do I have going on back here? So I am making lasagna tonight for dinner. About a week ago or so, I picked up 6.5 pounds of hamburger from Costco, and normally I come home and I just kind of divide it into individual packages and put that in the freezer. This time I decided to do a little batch prep cooking, and I turned 2 pounds of it into a meatloaf. I turned another 3 pounds into meat for spaghetti sauce, and I turned the other 1.5 pounds into taco meat and added a quart-sized jar of pinto beans to that, seasoned it with taco seasoning, and put that in the freezer. So the spaghetti sauce ended up turning into a huge big batch, which was my intention. As you all know, my daughter had a baby a couple weeks ago, and so her husband went back to work finally, and so I told her the first week that she was solo I would cover the meals for her. It's a lot, especially when you have 7 kids and you're homeschooling and you got this new baby. So anyway, so I made her lasagna the other day, but I still had leftovers and food to eat, so we didn't need ours quite yet. So today that is getting made. I've got the last of the sauce left, and my mozzarella cheese is defrosting. I have some cottage cheese and lasagna noodles. And just a tip, I'm going to assume most of you guys already know this, but I keep seeing these at this grocery store, oven ready pasta or oven, I don't know, it's like big sheets of it so that you can just put it in the oven. You don't have to cook. Maybe that's what it is. No cook, noodles or something like that. You do not have to cook any of the noodles ahead of time for lasagna, no matter what type you use. So save yourself the extra money and just use regular noodles. The two things that I do when I do that is to make sure that I add a little extra liquid into my sauce, so it's a little thinner than what I might normally have spaghetti sauce, and cover it with foil when you bake it. And just simply bake your lasagna like you normally would, checking it after. I usually let it go 45 minutes to an hour. Then I check it to make sure that it is that the noodles are soft. If they're not, put the lid back on and let it keep baking. But it works every time. I've been doing it for years. Like I said, I'm sure most of you a lot of you maybe already know that, but if you don't, there's a tip for you. Okay, now, let's see. I've got a list of things I wanted to chat with you guys about. First of all, it feels so nice. The other week, I washed all my aprons and ironed all my aprons, and now when I go to put on a fresh, clean, ironed apron, I don't know, it just feels so good. It's like I have, my uniform on, and I'm ready to get to work. My husband was, an aircraft mechanic for 33 years, and so, of course, he had the company's uniforms that he had to wear. And I was just always, he was always my husband until he put that uniform on, and then I'm like, oh, Mr. Aircraft Mechanic. There's just something that makes you feel like, yes, this is my job, and I'm ready to go tackle it when you have your uniform on. So I also have past videos where I have 2 videos, a series part 1 and 2, that shows how to make this apron, all the way from making the pattern yourself. So if you haven't seen that, I will link those in the description box if you're interested in an easy beginner's pattern and would like to make yourself some pretty little aprons. I feel like my brain's all over the place today, so I can keep getting scattered. But you know now what I'm having for dinner. What are you having for dinner? I would love to know that. I would really like to make Coffee with Crystal a nice little community where we can share together different ideas and things to encourage and inspire each other. So sharing what's for dinner is always great. In my last Coffee with Crystal, I talked about mealtime inspiration and shared a couple cookbooks. But I think it's great if you just share what you are making for dinner. Sometimes it'll just be that spark somebody needs to say, yes, let's have that tonight. And that has been the case with you guys. You have mentioned things before to me, and I'm like, ooh, that sounds really good, and I end up making the same thing in the next night or two. So please share your dinner plans. And then I wanted to share another thing that I have been, that I did in my kitchen lately. And I think I filmed myself doing this, but at this time, as I'm recording, I cannot remember. So if you see some film of this as I'm talking, then you'll know I did. If not, then I didn't. I had showed you guys a quick bread. It was a savory quick bread, and left the recipe for that. I ended up with a few slices left, and I wanted to use it somehow and ended up turning it into breadcrumbs. Super simple process. I drizzled oil and a few extra spices. Since this bread was already very flavorful, I didn't bother putting too much spice on it. Toss that together and put it in the oven for a bit, and I can leave more details below, but these have been so good. They are now croutons for salads, and I have enjoyed it. I think they're a little crunchier. Maybe I could have cooked them a little bit less time, but than what normal croutons, because it was a quick bread. It wasn't a yeast bread. But oh my gosh, we've really enjoyed that. And so that's a good use if you have leftover bread. The other thing I wanted to do, my poor Bible, I've had it for probably 35 years or more. At one point it got ripped, but I just try to be careful with it. I have so many notes and so many things in the Bible that I have not wanted to replace it, which is why I don't still use it this way. But anyway, so how many of you joined me this year for Read Your Bible in a Year? Raise your hand. If you did, I'm curious where you are in your Bible reading right now and what kind of plan you're following. I gave all kinds of suggestions back in December of different various plans that you could try, and links and all kinds of things. So I'm just curious what plan you're following and where you are at. I am currently in the book of Proverbs. I picked a plan through, I have the Bible app, and I used the Bible Project. Again, I used them last year and really enjoyed their devotionals so much. They taught me so much that I decided to do that again. I think the only difference this year I could see is that every day they read from the book of Psalms at the end of the daily Bible reading. So I'm guessing that they're either going to finish off with Psalms, or I don't know what they're doing, but I'll find out. Anyway, and so I'm going through chronologically again. For years, I always did read a little Old Testament, read a little New Testament, and would go back and forth that way. Sometimes if I used like the one-year Bible, I would do it that way. Other times if I would finish a whole book in the Old, then read a whole book in the New. Last year, I decided to do chronological, from Genesis through to Revelation, and I really enjoyed that last year, and even more so this year. There's always so much to gain. So if you are going through the Bible this year, please let me know where you're at, and like I said, what plan you're using. I think sometimes as homemakers, we can often wonder what is the impact of our life at home, where we're just focused on the cooking and the cleaning and the organizing and all of those things, and you wonder, well, what impact does this have? What is this actually doing, for not just, I'm not referring to just our family, but for the kingdom of God, or for anything, because I think oftentimes we think it has to be big, and and so how does this, doing the homemaking stuff, relate to something big? Well, I've shared this book in the past, Almost Amish, super good book. I already gave a review on it in a past video, but this woman, and the subtitle of this book is One Woman's Quest for a Slower, Simpler, More Sustainable Life. And I've really enjoyed the book, and I've already read it once, but sometimes I'll go back through and just look for things or make note of something that I want to share with you guys. So in chapter 10, which is called Faith, I just wanted to read to you the first paragraph, and I'm not going to go into the whole what her chapter was about, but there's something just that really applies to the question I just asked. The Amish are known for their wise proverbs, but perhaps my favorite consists of just 5 words. More is caught than taught. While this saying applies to many areas of life, it is absolutely central to Amish faith. For the Amish, faith is not relegated to an hour on Sundays and then put to the side the rest of the week. Rather, faith is at the center of every action every day. The Amish people, a people of few words, express their faith through example, by walking the talk rather than only talking the walk. And so I really love that in relationship to a homemaker. You do not know how much is caught rather than taught by just our simple actions of being at home and taking care of our homes. I think we don't often realize the impact that can have on those around us. If you have grandmothers or mothers that were homemakers, how do you look back and see them? Do you see them, well, they didn't get much accomplished because all they did was stay home all the time? Is that how you see them? I doubt that. What you see is a faithful woman taking care of her home, taking care of her family, and you see something that is so much bigger than the individual tasks that we do. And I think that it is even more important in today's society where things are not as central to the home like they used to be, that we can tend to not realize what an amazing impact it can be to be that stay-at-home grandma or that stay-at-home wife. Even if you are not full-time stay-at-home, but your devotion to the home and your devotion to your family is something that is seen by those around you. Anyway, that was just a little bit that I wanted to share from that book, Almost Amish. You can probably find it in your library or thrift books or something like that. When I share books, I'm not trying to get people to go buy the book. I'm actually just sharing what I have found and found and share bits and pieces from the books that I think might be encouraging or inspiring. So that's why I always tell people, go to the library first, thrift books next, Goodwill or whatever. Search for your books there. If you guys have books that you enjoy, I would always love to have the recommendation too, because I'm always on the look for good, encouraging, edifying books for us as homemakers and wives. I think I have covered everything that I had written down and planned to chat with you. I really hope that you guys have enjoyed having your morning cup of coffee, or maybe it's afternoon, cup of coffee with me. Because I know I certainly enjoy it too. These videos are a lot simpler for me to make sometimes than some of my other ones, just simply because I can be busy doing these things and sit down and just take a break and have a little chat with you. So I enjoy that a lot. And don't forget to give this video a like if you enjoy these Coffee with Crystal videos. It not only lets me know that they're enjoyed, but it also helps my channel. Every like to a video I get, every comment I get, it lets YouTube know, hey, okay, people are interested in this. Let me show her video to other people that have similar interests. And it helps my channel grow. So I dearly love each and every one of you that makes comments, and especially my regulars who I have gotten to know now, and I would love to get to know more of you. So please jump in and share what you can. I would really enjoy that. All right. I hope you guys have an awesome and blessed day, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye-bye.